if it's not clear from looking at me, I am actually a hardcore gamer. Like when I say that I've played hours and hours of video games and I will not stop, like that is where I'm at. I like to classify myself as a level 31 female human. I'm pretty proficient at cooking. I program. I'm really good at playing games. I fail miserably at athletic checks. Don't ask me to do push-ups. But I've always had this fascination with games. And it actually started when I was a level 12 human. And this happened because my father bought me a PlayStation 1. Yes, yes. For those of y'all who are not in the know, we're at the PS4 stage right now, soon to launch the PS5, probably, right? That's how old I am. Again, level 31 human. But when I was 12, I played a bunch of games, role-playing games, where I was a dragoon and I would fly on dragons and I would save the world. I also flew mechs, and I could go and explore dungeons and meet new creatures and meet people that I've never met before. And so it got me thinking, actually, for a while, well, what if life could be a game? If I'm a level 31 human, maybe other aspects of games could be applied to our everyday world, and that might actually help us think through a lot of the systems that we interact with. And so I want to take you on a journey. You are now at level 1. Congratulations. And we are going to just, for a brief moment, talk about games and cultural impact. So a lot of people ask me, Ashlyn, but why games? Why are they so important? Why do you spend hours and hours and hours playing them? Well, let me tell you, my friends, did you know that the game industry is a $43.3 billion industry? Yeah, you didn't. This is an industry where you could actually make money in it, either making games or playing games. We're at that point where you can actually get scholarships to be on an esports team. Yeah. Some more monetary values for you. When Grand Theft Auto V released, it made $1 billion in 3 days. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. But not only are people spending money on games, people are spending a lot of collective time playing games. Call of Duty Black Ops, when Activision released some numbers from their player base, about 600, they logged 600 million hours of gameplay. That's how much time people spent playing this game around the world. So not only are people spending money, they're also spending time, but also they're building communities. They're going out and exploring their environments. Pokemon Go, when it first released, you were able to download about 550 million versions of it on different mobile devices around the world. In the first 3 months. Fortnite, does anyone play Fortnite in here? I'm just curious. Oh no, where are my gamers at? It's okay, I'm here to educate you. This is why we're here. So Fortnite is a great example of actually moving again beyond the game space and exploring your environments to actually continuing in cultural impact, where you now had DJs. If you've heard of the DJ Marshmello, he actually had a concert in Fortnite, and 200 million people logged in to watch this concert. League of Legends, a very popular esports game. This is one of the games that you can play to get a scholarship to go to certain colleges. It also now has taken its characters and created girl bands and boy bands. So now you can actually listen to these characters sing on Spotify. So this is a girl group called KDA, and it is a mash between the K-pop, Korean pop music realm, and just general American pop music. And when the internet saw this video, they lost their collective minds. Millions of views in the first few hours. We're at a wild time. So, you can see that people are spending so much time playing games. We're at a point where it's about to potentially shift how we view the world and how we see the world. In fact, a lot of companies employ gamification principles in their companies. And so gamification is this idea of taking game elements and putting them into non-game-based scenarios. So think about making sure that you're coming in on time and you're gaining enough points, and that allows you to rack up maybe more vacation time, right? Just FYI, the average gamer is 37 years old. 97% of teens play games. And so we're at this cultural moment. So many people are playing games. How might we think through this paradigm shift and actually move this into the real world? So, welcome to level 2. You did it. So let's talk about games and design. So I also am a game designer. That is what I do in my day job. That's what I do on my side hustle. I play games. Like if you ever need a game being made, come talk to your girl. But what this also means is that I study games like a science, like a researcher. And so what I've noticed while playing games, and a bunch of game theorists also agree with this, that games are actually really good at giving people agency, right? If you think about a game, you as a player must enact some form of interactivity on some object in this world or a game board, and the game will not move forward without you doing something in the game. Games also are really good at providing a safe space for trial and error. What real-world systems allow you to fail over and over and over again and allow you to pick yourself back up and say, that's okay. The reason why I failed is because I didn't know something about the system, or I can get better, I can improve my skill, or I just need to learn more about the secret boss, secret dungeon, and it's okay, right? There are no systems in this world that allow you to do that, but games are the only mediums that allow you to do that, which means that it's a safe space for failure, right? But they're also really, really good at depicting systems. I have built galaxies, and I understand how chemistry works because I've played games, and it's been able to take something that was somewhat kind of abstract and turn it into a means that I can understand and also play with, right? I can try new strategies, and it's okay. But you might be asking, you might be thinking in your head, oh, well, I've played this game, I've played that game. Is this a game? Is that a game? What is a game? That's a fantastic question. Also a very contentious question in the game industry. I am here to tell you, whatever you think as a game is totally a game. Don't let the haters and the people with their negativity bring you down with the type of games that you enjoy. It's totally fine, right? I am not into gatekeeping. I'm totally into building a larger community. When I say that, like, when people are still confused when they see me as like, oh, you play games? Like, I'm excited about it, but I'm also kind of tired of their surprise. So, right? So I want people to be in this space and think about games not only for fun, but also ways that we can change the world. But just some high-level ideas to kind of get us to think through games as an interactive, fun thing to play, to real-world systems that we as gamers and game designers might actually be able to change. So games, here are some elements of the game. This is a kind of a simplification from a game designer, his studies person. His name is Jasper Jules. And he has these 8 different elements. Games are fixed rules. They have fixed rules, right? So when you play Uno or spades, like, you have to have a whole conversation about the type of game you're about to play, or else the moment that you start playing the game, everyone's confused and you're like, what are you doing, right? These are the fixed rules. You have to define your terms before you engage in the game. But also the outcomes of the game are different, but you can also quantify them based off of your own interpretation, right? You can actually, the outcomes also have a certain value to it. It might make you really, really excited that you won. It might also make you really, really sad. Or it might not even matter at all, but that's up to you as the player. Again, in terms of agency, you as a player must exert effort. If you don't exert effort, right, it's all about consent, right? You're consenting to play this game. The moment that you step back and you decide not to is when the game will stop. And you as the player are attached to those outcomes. Again, whatever the game is to you is what it is to you. And also those consequences are negotiable. Now, this applies to your basic standard board games or card games, but could we actually start looking at these elements of a game and thinking about them like large structures that we interact with, like school? School has fixed rules as determined by a bell that tells you where you're supposed to go at a certain time. If you are not at that place at that certain time, you will get written up. That's an outcome, that's a consequence. You might be okay with getting detention because you might just be able to sit and read your book in detention, or you might have a teacher who's gonna make you do some hard work. It depends. But you have to exert effort. You either decided to go to class early or late, or other circumstances caused you from doing that. But you're really attached to if you get detention or not, right? But again, those consequences are negotiable. There were times where it was okay for me to get detention. My parents weren't gonna murder me. They were not upset about it because they're like, yeah, you're late. This is what you get. Congratulations. Right? So again, let's continue to push this forward. What does gentrification look like in terms of a game? It's a high stakes game, but there are fixed rules, even if players living in these neighborhoods are not aware of said rules, which is terrible, right? But if we think like game designers, and game designers really care about, good game designers I'll say, care about making sure that your player has the best experience possible, has an equal chance of winning the game, no matter who they're up against, it equalizes people. You can be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and you could sit with some random person in the park and play a game, and you're equal. It doesn't actually matter where you come from, who you are. So what if we started thinking like game designers and applying that same ideologies to these real world systems that we live in? Perhaps we actually might be able to start moving forward to a more equitable future, especially if people are so used to playing games anyway. We might as well go ahead and use the same frame that they're used to thinking about. And so let's actually talk about structural violence and structural racism in the terms of a game. So let's think about slavery, let's think about indentured servitude, and let's think about how people of color and also poor white people actually were pretty much on the same equal level compared to rich white folks. And so there was a potential for these two groups to rise up and maybe gain some form of equity and access to things that they need for their lives. But these rich white folks changed the game and changed the rules by saying, hey, poor white people, you are better than slaves based off of your skin tone. The moment you do that is the moment that you manage to separate a group of people. That's a fantastic mechanic in terms of some form of social deduction, evil style game, but that's not the type of game I want to play. How might we think about bringing these people back together? How might we actually heal people across divides? And how might we be able to do that through games? Again, people from all backgrounds play games. So how might we think through this? Capitalism, enjoy it. It is delicious. It's not. But think about it in terms of the types of structures it's produced. The way that we have managed to gain surplus is by exploiting people at the bottom so that the people on top can have more. That's, again, a kind of system that has been created. What are some ways that we, again, if we think like game designers and knowing that the people on the bottom don't enjoy that. They don't enjoy being exploited, but how do we design a system so everyone gets what they want and need, and they also enjoy playing said game? Those are my questions that I think about. These are the things that keep me up at night. So welcome to level 3. I know it kind of starts high and then we go low, but we're gonna jump back up, I promise you. Games, society, politics, let's do it. My question to everyone here, as people who have some level of agency over their own lives, while your agency might differ from another person, you actually have the ability to help design experiences for other people. Anytime you interact with a person is a way that you can help enhance that other person's experience. And if we all collectively start doing that, perhaps we can make even more change in the world. So how might play and game design influence our social cultural systems? Let's think through it for a moment. Thought experiment. Imagine schools. Let's go back to it. Schools they're really good at sometimes stripping creativity away from people because, again, you have these things of grades, right? And it's not as though you can try again over and over again, but what if you could? What if you could just keep trying tests until you get better at it? That would change people's thoughts and views of education dramatically. What if teachers view themselves somewhat like performers at Disney World and actually engage students in storytelling and imagination and creativity and just enhance the enjoyment that people naturally have when they're curious about things? But we actually have to think through a larger system. Teachers are not able to actually do the things that they want to do in their classrooms. So how might administrators and school systems think through making the systems more enjoyable for teachers and also their students? Again, how can we keep applying this game design thinking to these larger social systems? My favorite, gerrymandering. I know. Oh. So for the folks that are not in the know, just keeping it simple, gerrymandering is this practice of redrawing district lines in order to gain favorable votes by your party. Example, we have different precincts if you draw it based on blue versus red, and if you just count those votes regularly, you would notice in a precinct that 60% is blue, 40% is red, right? And so in that world, blue would win. But no, that is not the United States that we live in, my friends, no. We actually live in a country where we can actually redraw those lines and change it to our favor. So you can actually redraw those lines such that you actually make the numbers smaller for people who are blue versus red, right? And so you'll notice here, red could win depending on how you draw those lines. But is that fair to the people who live there? If this is something that you're going to do as a designer, then you have to provide your players an ability to move and change. You would have to provide your people stipends if they want to move someplace else. You would have to do that because that would make the system fair. Or you could choose not to have gerrymandering at all and just count people's votes individually, and that would also be fine. But for some reason, we don't do that. We're so used to just looking at ourselves, our own individualistic needs and wants. But again, think about the community, think about the people that you're designing these systems for. They're the most important people. Because as a game designer, it's not about me at all. If my players say that A is B, well, guess what? A is B now. That's what we're going to do because they're enjoying themselves. They're playing together. They're talking. They're having fun. They're thinking through the problems that I've put in front of them. And that is an amazing place to be. And there's a power in that. Another, and probably my final example, will be banks. Now, you are able, if you are super rich, to put money in a bank for a long period of time. And it just sits there and collects value. But it collects value by not moving at all. And so what that does is that means that other people, again, because capitalism is a strong machine, means that people at the bottom are still being exploited and wages are not being raised in any way. So what if we change the simple rule to say you can only, your money will only have value if you spend it. If money moves, then you can keep your value. If you don't, then it's just going to decrease and you will actually lose your wealth. Now money will start circulating in an economy. Small, simple things. Perhaps. There's a lot of other issues that go into these kind of designs, but the idea of designing for another person and making it fair and equitable is the thing that I want you all to take away today. And so if this world is a game, I want to play together and I want to build together. Thank you.